What is the Christmas show?
That's the question. Okay, I gotta compose myself. What is the Christmas show? What is the Arbor Christmas?
What is the Arbor Christmas show? Yeah.
Do you want me to answer? The Arbor Christmas show is.
Say like the Christmas show is.
Okay, the Christmas show is. Sorry,
Cool.
This is gonna be rough.
No, we're good.
The Christmas show is an annual show started by John Montag 20 years ago this year. That all of us get together, and I'm struggling with this one. Ask me another one first.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Who is John Montag?
And then you guys were answering these in short bursts.
It was like John is, and then adjectives to describe him, but still also if you got stories or anything, I would.
Okay.
I would talk a little bit openly about him.
All right. John. The thing that kept coming to me, John is loud. John is enthusiastic. John was a very supportive person. John was definitely a creative person, and John was definitely organized. Yeah, anecdotes. I don't know, too many. So, yeah, I have to
talk about the time you guys played Bond. About playing with Bond, you mentioned him being loud.
Yeah, I believe that there's record of this, right? Secession movement. Yeah, so there's a secession movement recording, right? Yeah, so at the end of our album, I believe there's again. That's probably the last time too that I really played video games with anyone, particularly in a collective fashion. I've never been much of a gamer, but Bond was a very good time. Yeah, yeah, mostly because of the antics, you know. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Tell us about that time, knowing John and him talking to you guys about being on the second Christmas show, and Blatcher, and how did the Aegis thing all kind of come about?
Yeah, the Aegis thing. Jeff and I hadn't played music in a good amount of time. I'm trying to remember the exact gap of time that it was, but it was a pretty significant amount of years. And so the second year when we got involved was the first time that Jeff and I had played music in a very long time. And so that was nice. And then it was also something where we kind of like revisited being in A. Roger 7, so kind of reconnecting with Dave Richter and everybody like that. So that was fun. And the first songs I remember very well, like doing them in the basement in Cherry Hill and everything like that. So mostly doing them all live. Kessler's obviously involved and everything. So it was cool because we kind of had been doing really loud stuff for years, and that was us kind of revisiting the what we called jug band stuff initially. So that's what A. Roger 7 kind of grew out of, which is like a jug band.
Cool.
You know, so yeah, that was very cool.
What else? Any Arbor Christmas moments that stand out to you?
I definitely think about the first year being involved does stand out to me because I remember Audubon Park, right? And that was that the first year? Help me. First second was Audubon Park, right? Because I remember it had the door at the back, so I remember the organizational part of it, right? Of kind of using that. John again was very stage management oriented, right? So he always kind of made sure that we were kind of on point. Right. I also remember those were the years where we were really trying to rehearse a lot to be prepared for the show, you know? So there was that pressure that John was kind of putting on the situation, which, you know, sounds joking, but obviously has kind of receded over the years to the point where now the way we do it is this very last minute, very stressful thing. But those early ones, I remember him rehearsing us a lot and really trying to get us to run through the full show and kind of coming to the back door and everything like that. So. Yeah, and it was nice because, instantly you got the feeling that ended up kind of lasting throughout the entire thing, which is kind of like the family, the warmth, I guess you'd call it, of the whole thing, so.
Cool. Let's see. How is the compilation put together every year, and talk about the involvement of the studio with any of the recordings and anything?
Yeah.
Walk us through the process, how it all goes down first.
Well, yeah, the earlier stuff, again, the first couple of years, we were still, before Steve and I were partners, we were doing our recording in Cherry Hill and on our basement studio. And then as it evolved, when Steve and I partnered up with Gradwell, we obviously started to dedicate days to doing it. And the earlier days that kind of lasted for some years was, we'd have those long Sundays or whatever that we would book, or maybe a couple days in a row, where we'd have fragments, 9 to 11 would be one band, 11 to 1, which was really fun because it was obviously just straight up Dunkin' Donuts probably for 14 or 15 hours and coffee for 14 or 15 hours. And that's kind of just as I was starting to drink coffee. But so I remember that process always being really fun to do it. And obviously it's been more difficult to do it in recent years with everybody's schedules and everything like that. But and also because, I feel like every year we would do it, Kyle Costel's band would go 2 or 3 times over the amount of time they needed. So everything, it was always Messino, and, it was always those guys. Nick and Messino were great about it, where they would show up at like 10 p.m., you know what I mean, and finish a song in like an hour and a half or something like that. But I always remember, I feel like it always ended with Messino and Tim Cooper. Yeah. And his friend Nick as well, so. Yeah. But those were really fun, for sure. And I mean, I think that we would do, what was it, like some of those one day sessions were probably like 5 or 6 songs or something. So you're doing half of the record, You
get some collaboration happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you'd obviously have people playing Jingle Bells on 10 or 11 songs. But yeah, you would always have some sort of collaboration. And obviously the early ones too, where it was like, that's kind of built into it. You know what I mean? When Adam was more involved and everything like that, we were doing the songs. Everybody was always playing together,
Did you record the Evil Snowflake song?
I'm struggling to remember that song.
Yeah. I wonder if that was Steve.
Which, do you remember?
It was the one that was a ripoff of The Who.
Yeah. I feel like I was involved with that. Yeah. Was that a live one? Was it Mike singing?
I think it was 3 of us playing live. I think you.
Oh, it was me. I think.
On it.
Yeah. You know what? That actually makes sense too.
Or something, or piano. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. While I'm thinking about it, talk about the cheesesteak song.
The cheesesteak song is getting brought into this. Okay. My mom had an idea for a song that rightfully she thought could be very useful, I guess, in this area. And so she had written the lyrics to it, but was demanding that we write and record it. I think specifically that Mike Mayer sing on the track. So Mike and I did get together eventually. I don't know how many years it took us to actually do it. I don't know. It could have been 3 or 4 years that she was egging us on. But then we finally got through it, put it on there, and then we put it as a secret track, right?
Yes. And I think we played it live, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah. This is all kind of coming back because this was one we did that at the VFW, right?
At Bettlewood.
At Bettlewood, exactly. Yeah. So which is now what is it? Not Swicca. Is it? It's one of the places she's involved with, like the Riverkeeper kind of. You know what I mean? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So she's there, kind of.
That's what saying. It's like an environmental.
Exactly. Yeah. Which she's been involved with for years. So yeah.
Let's see what else. Did you have any involvement in like the sound at the auction house?
The sound,
more Steve.
I think it was. Yeah, that's definitely more Steve. Although I mean, obviously we always, I'm always helping out, but that's definitely more.
You want to talk about maybe like the Holy Savior setup with all the setting up the show and coming early and things like that and getting all that stuff together.
Yeah. We're definitely getting more systematic about it for sure. But we've kind of jumped. The show obviously is always meant to kind of, in my mind, I don't know if everybody else feels the same way, but I feel like it's always meant to kind of feel like a 7th grade play or something. And so, production value wise, particularly when we're always in Bettlewood and, again, the early VFWs and things like that, before the auction house, there wasn't really any sort of like professional sound, we weren't trying to rip anybody's heads off in some of the VFWs, whereas obviously now that we have a system and Steve and Matt obviously are, expert in that we set up the whole venue. And now, I mean, again, if we're organized, we can get in the night before and get everything set. And ideally has sound that's decent enough to be audible in Holy Savior, which is difficult. It's a big gym,
Yeah. It sounded good. I think the setup the last couple of years is perfect.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, it's kind of nice because it's like, I think that venue, the vibe of that venue, it's a lot bigger. but it's also like it's a nice
Pretty
vibe.
perfect.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's enough Wes Anderson to it or something.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
There's a stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a school.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else. What is in the Christmas show's future?
That I don't know. I know that it seemed like we were talking about the idea that of looking at 20 years and whether or not it made sense to kind of cap it at some point. I think if it were up to my parents, they think we're getting too old for this shit. So, but and again, we've attempted obviously as getting our kids involved, and I think that would be a very interesting transition. Obviously, you would need to procreate a whole generation of musicians to do that, or at least people that are willing to get up and act a fool, so to speak. But yeah, I don't know. Is there going to be another Shaq? Is there going to be another Matt Hodge? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. And that's the thing too. I mean, back to the idea, like now that I'm warmed up, that obviously John is somebody that you have big personality. You know what I mean? So not everybody is somebody that's going to get up and obviously have something to say, but then also try to command attention or be able to command attention like that. So I think it's interesting because a lot of the people, seeing Adam get up and Jamie get up is neat because you're kind of seeing, I don't know if Jamie had that personality, obviously he does, but to get up in front of people and perform, you know what I mean? It seems, that it's like, John and Adam seem to share that. So it's neat to see Jamie, them like acting in it every year. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? I didn't know him that well before that,
Nice,
but it's cool,
Adam was saying the same thing in his.
Yeah. So, that's cool.
What else? Any Arbor videos or any skits that you particularly like?
Honestly, that is generally been a highlight, but that's also, I feel like help me remember the one with Shaq. There was one that was Shaq.
Shaq in the Sack?
Probably Shaq in the Sack. I mean, Shaq just had some unreal ones. I kind of, honestly, I'm a sucker for all the Matt Hodge led ones too. Do you know what I mean? So really anything where Matt is like,
yeah. I rewatched the Stranger Things one recently.
Okay.
And Hodge with the, all right, guys, I'll see you later. Like him going up into his room, his performance and all of that is on.
Yeah, it's
the light flicker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm kind of like one of the things that I was struggling with this is that like I have a really good memory, but at the same time, we have been doing this long enough that it's blurring pretty hard for me. Like at this point, I struggle to remember the Aegis songs from the years. Like I just don't know what they are. It's like we do them so quickly that they're just, so I don't know.
Cool.
I could probably, if you want, now that, again, I'm kind of talking more, I could probably go back and talk about how we do the comp in more detail,
Yeah, go for it.
Because, so the comp every year has evolved. It generally, like the rest of the show, is a flurry of work, pretty last minute. But for people that don't necessarily always see behind the scenes or kind of hear us maybe talk about it, it really is interesting to see, us all kind of commit to the idea of creating something, and really feeling the pressure to do it, generally speaking, within about 2 or 3 weeks of Christmas, So right now we're talking, it is November 21st, right? So we got a month out.
December 21st
yeah,
is the show.
Yeah, so no one I know, I guess now, not for longs, have a song. So I can think of years where, because I'm the one mastering it, which is the final color correction, so to speak, of the whole thing and putting all the songs together. So I'm always the last one that touches the music. And, it's inevitably every year, you and I are talking, or, I don't know, somebody is going to hit me up. It's going to be Joe Ryan. It's going to be December 13th. And they're going to have a song, or, Carmen is all of a sudden going to plop a song. Evan's going to send a song. You can basically go from, or we have about 7 songs and being like, yeah, okay, that's cool that there's going to be less songs this year. And that 7 becomes 19 in about 3 or 4 days, inevitably. We just get people sending stuff in from all over the place, So, for people that don't see exactly how it gets put together, it is kind of remarkable that again, it's generally almost all original at this point, obviously for many, many years. So I don't know the song count. Do you know the song count, like the total?
As of a couple years ago, it was like 173.
Right. So that it's an unreal amount of material, and it's kind of like outside of certain occasions with XPN and obviously Stacey's song being featured, the Classic Brown song on NPR. I don't know how many people realize how many songs are there, or you know what I mean. So it was nice when Vitesse did the whole thing behind the scenes with it, but inevitably, I cannot remember the Aegis songs for most of the past few years. Like it's all just a blur at this point because there's so many.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's the total Aegis output now.
Well,
it's 20. I mean, close to
comps. Aegis was on the third one,
Mm-hmm.
so 16. But that's also.
Oh no! We have multiple
multiple
songs on a
songs,
bunch of times. Yeah, so it's in the 20. It's 20 something. I don't know what it is, but it's a
25?
lot.
Something like that. That's kinda nuts.
Yeah. So
Put a vinyl out.
yeah. I mean, so again, the whole thing obviously is meaningful because Jeff and I weren't necessarily making music, so it got Jeff and I making music again. It's definitely something nice that Stacey and I always do. I think Stacey's songs are always really good. So it's generally been really cool. It's generally been definitely in recent years with a lot of stress of other stuff going on, it's a hard thing to pull together. It's a hard time of year to do it. But at the same time, it does seem to always enter this rally stage, as you know, and that somehow pushes out a whole set of songs. Do you know what I mean? And it's generally way more than I would have expected every single time.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. I mean, sometimes when you look at it, you're like, wow, how did all those songs come in?
Yeah. Because inevitably, again, you're gonna get Tom. The only guarantee I feel like ever anymore is like Basio, because those guys are so organized. They get in and they already figure out what they want to do. They're way ahead of the curve every time. So and then I don't know. Who's last minute. But I mean. You give Steve like an hour, he can come up and record a song. You know what I mean? He just, whether or not he's going to get that together. So, yeah. So.
What else? Anything you could think of?
We should go back to the first question.
The John?
The
the Arbor one.
The Arbor one, the John
yeah.
one. And I think the Arbor one, I don't think you have to be super strict to the Arbor is. You can just talk about the night of the show.
Okay.
Too, what
sure.
you like about the night of the show,
regardless
of,
Yeah. Arbor Christmas is, it's kind of I guess I don't have family reunions, right? And I'm not asking you, right? I don't have family reunions. It's definitely entered into a family reunion type of state at this point to me. There's a whole group of people that I only see there, right? And obviously it makes sense that it's family reunion because of the Montags and everything, but it's also again it's a fun experience. The flow of the show is really fun, particularly when it's going well. Particularly again, when you're slowly getting drunk throughout the entire night, I think is a good vibe. But yeah, I mean it's definitely, I think that you've said it in the past. I feel like we've both said it. There's definitely been a lot of years where it truly does. It sounds cheesy, but it truly does feel like Christmas. Right? So, I don't know. So I think that that vibe definitely makes it tough. I think that there's a good amount of people that come to it that get that right away. So it kind of, I feel like it would be tough to not do the show. I feel like the comp is tough to keep going because it's so much work, or all the work you guys put into preparing the show and everything like that. But the performance end of stuff, I think kind of does pay off. I don't know. It all pays off.
All those
you know what I mean?
Too,
It's
the performances could just be, you could play old songs.
Yeah, no, totally.
You know what I mean? Have it be a total recap or.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I mean, it's kind of I feel like the video stuff in recent years has been so good. Do you know what I mean? That I feel like everybody enjoys the video, presuming we have good enough sound to hear what you guys are saying. The video stuff's awesome, and obviously, again, it's awesome to have the comp, for sure. And again, obviously there's a whole crew of people that are kind of diehards for it, at this point. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's.
So you think it could go to 30?
I don't know. It would be strange, mostly because it's very, very few things in my life that I've had go 30 years, That's context. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could, Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
Mm-hmm.
John is.
Yeah, cause like you could go like you did the John is, but you could talk a little bit more about just like.
You want to talk about the jam pen at all?
The jam pen. Oh man.
Plugs?
Yeah. The jam pen. You can't talk about the jam pen without talking about Tim Gregory and Tommy Griggs. I didn't realize that I was going to talk about this for the Christmas show, but yeah. So John is obviously directly connected to that. There's a whole group of people that I went to high school with, right, that exposed me to music. So there's a bunch of tiers of people. I think it seems to all, you know, I'm not going to give him too much credit, but I feel like it goes back to like Brian Dugan, which no one here knows. But I was lucky enough to be surrounded by a lot of people with good taste in music and enthusiasm, right? So, and of course, again, you don't realize this, you know, I'm in music now, it's my entire life, but you don't necessarily realize at the time that people, it isn't like that, right? Everywhere else, you know, you don't have people that are interested in doing it or playing in bands that are making stuff or whatever. So John was a part of that whole crew, right? You know, John and like Gary, you know, Greg Foljam, and you know, so yeah, there's like a nice picture we have of like a whole bunch of people from back then, you know. Yeah. So
John's
yeah.
in the middle giving the finger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I found that picture on Tim Gregory's website.
That makes sense.
Tommy Griggs, and that was the background of like his AOL website. Like, oh my God, what a treasure.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
I emailed him for the picture. He's like, I don't know what the picture is. I was like,
yeah. So, you know, as a way of jumping off and talking about John, it's like the I guess the reason why that kind of works in, you know, for an image of John is that it's like I remember John's energy. You know what I mean? So obviously it's, you know, in
this gotta shut off.
That.
Hold on 1 second.
Yep, sure. Let me make sure.
Jam pen.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, obviously, John. The thing that if you know, I guess if you're describing people, then people have never met any people that, you know, John definitely had a lot of energy. You know, John was the kind of person that like you kind of like. It's like you saw tons of energy and you saw him kind of deflate. You know what I mean? He was generally somebody that it's like he was always kind of like peak energy, enthusiasm, you know, for stuff. So it was kind of neat, like coming, you know, reconnecting with him and Dave Dunn and everybody when we were playing in the band. We were living in Cherry Hill, you know, because he kind of became, he and Dave and Jeff Mott kind of became like kind of, you know, very enthusiastic towards what we were doing. And it was like a nice energy with that whole crew at that time, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Very, very supportive, you know.
Do you think we'd still be doing the show if John was still around?
That's a really good question. I would feel like John strikes me as the kind of person. It's a good question. I feel like John, well, interesting on a few levels, I guess, because I feel like Steve and John were on the outs at that time, so it kind of brought Steve back in, right? Because, you know, again, I don't want to put that in or something like that, but
that's one of my memories of Arbor too, though. Is like seeing them talk again and like dance to Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
So I was like, I guess they're like matching things up.
Right. So it's like I think that, yeah, I could maybe see that because it's like everybody else. I feel like the thing about the crew of people is that almost everybody's up for it. You know what I mean? Like that's a big thing with John, right? With you, with, you know what I mean? Almost everybody is. You're kind of like Steve, you know, that you have people that are like, do you want to do something? And they want to do something. You know what I mean? So I feel like John was the spearheading this particular thing, but I think you're lucky to have like a crew of people that are all up for stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that want to do things like this. So I think that maybe I feel like it would, you know, in the sense that I think that, again, you know, it would have a very different feel to it, I guess, right? Because it kind of, it in some ways, it's one of those situations where it's kind of holding something in a place in time, you know? But at the same time, I don't know. It's a really tough call. You know what I mean? What would you answer?
I said it probably would have been on
TV. Yeah. Well, I mean that John would have like been like more ambitious with it. Would have done something, you know.
That's what I was kind of saying. He just like always seemed very organized with his work, you know, and just like pretty, like this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. He's just charismatic, so I feel like you're gonna get. I don't know. I think.
Yeah, no, I mean
I think
that's.
everything would have been way
Yeah,
different.
I agree with that. I do think that everything would have been way different because I think that, again, I mean, John, the vibe of the shows with John there, that again we tried to keep up. We tried to be like really organized and kind of go through everything, but it's like, but you know, there's only so much that Brian Meese can do. You know what I mean? Like, you know. But also like his personality, and you know what I mean. That's the way that he was kind of running the show, and you know that kind of vision, that kind of energy to do that and to pull all that together. You know, you're probably right that it would have gone in. It would have, whereas the way that it ended up happening is, I feel like you wanted it to be the same vibe. Do you know what I mean? So that it's like we worked hard to kind of keep the vibe, you know, to never like really have the vibe, you know, which is a hard thing to do, right? You know what I mean? Like it kind of has to be. I'm not saying we did any of that like intentionally. But I'm saying that as we know, you take something, you put something on TV, you take something, and you like we talked about promoting it. That it wasn't really about promoting it per se. You know what I mean? The only reason really to promote it would be to get more money for the charities. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, it's like, the show was like kind of intentionally kept. Do you know what I mean? To a certain, it's like it's just one. The Arbor Christmas show is one big inside joke, right? You know, so there's your soundbite.
That's
awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All that. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah, I had like this thought, the whole thought process that I'll put on record that part of I was gonna like walk through the compilation as kind of like, it starts with, you know, like, you know, Basio being super organized and doing exactly what they're supposed to do 2 or 3 months early, right? Getting the song done, like not having any stress. And then like, you know, and then it basically devolves into the end where it's just like, you're just getting emailed songs. You know what I mean? And just like having people like stop in last minute. I distinctly remember, I don't know if I've told you this one before, but for like 3 or 4 years running, I would literally master the compilation and then finish Stacy's song, mix it, and master it. Because it would always go like very, very last minute. But even to the point, you know, like whereas now we're such kind of professionals at doing this that, you know, it's like we're always going to finish it. We're always going to try to do it right, so to speak, you know, but... so that doesn't happen anymore, and I'm happy to say that I think Stacy's songs, the production value has gotten a lot better in recent years. But it definitely, we had a couple years like we redid her song last year because the one time we did it was so last minute, and the form, and we ended up just making a mess of it. You know,
it happens.
Yeah.
You just, so many of my songs, like I'll look back and I'm like, that song's trash.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing that people should respect about it is that like we do this under so much duress. It's so last minute for us, you know. So it's something that like you're trying to put together essentially a full length album compilation in like a week and a half or 2 weeks, you know, kind of at most, you know. So, and the show in general, like that everything is happening this extremely crunch time, as everyone admits, is a terrible time of year to take on extra responsibility, the whole nine, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so a labor of love in all respects, you know. So, yeah, and of course, if you make it bigger, then it's not a labor of love. You're doing it for a totally different reason, right? So. Word.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve.